This is the Adoptive Mom Podcast. Adoption may look different for each family, but we need solidarity from other crazy people who took this leap. And that is what we do here. We encourage, we build up, we share the wins and losses. We lean on each other, and we get through this together. Thanks for joining us. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adoptive Mom Podcast, Season 2, Episode 11. Today is our Birth Mother's Day and Mother's Day episode, and it's fitting that we have a story from a birth mom and an adoptive mom, and they have a story together that's going to knock your socks off. Before we get to that, I wanted to give you a word from this episode's sponsor. It's Christine Bauer with her new book, Those Three Words, a birth mother's story of choice, chance, and motherhood. It's super fitting that it's coming right after Mother's Day because it's a memoir of her story of being a birth mom. It's amazing, and you're going to want to check it out. It's on Amazon, and I will link to it in the show notes at theadoptivemompodcast.com. This episode, we got to record actually in studio at our house with Lana and Rachel, which is so much fun, but it's a pretty new studio, and we're still getting lots of audio kinks worked out, so bear with us as you listen to this recording, and let's kick off now.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Lana. I am 26 years old. I'm a manager of a frozen yogurt shop called Yum Yo's, so you guys should definitely come check it out if you haven't. And I'm married to a guy named Nick, and he's the most amazing person ever. And then we're fur parents to Daisy May, our dog, and Millie Vanilli, our cat.
Those are the best names ever. People should pay you to name their pets.
Yeah, for real. Mills, or we call her Mills Vanills a lot it's like her rapper name.
You gotta keep it cash.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, what about you, Miss Rachel?
My name's Rachael Lopez. I have 3 amazing kids, all girls. My husband suffers through a girl household. And I don't know if you've ever been in one of those, but it's a unique and interesting experience on a daily basis.
Yeah.
My oldest is 19, and the baby is 3. So
you run the gamut there.
It's never dull. So, I go to work and do some hair to get away from the insanity that I live in. But, doing hair, kind of having a chairside ministry, it has given me the opportunity to meet people, including Lana. And it's just really changed my life and has given me great direction and great people in my world. I have a great tribe. I have a great orchard, and it's just never dull.
That's awesome. So, yeah, you guys need t-shirts that are like the hashtag girl mom, girl dad. See, I kind of wish, I don't. I would never not want my boys, but it's like I have one or the other, so I can't fit into either of those t-shirt categories. I can't have boy mom. I can't have girl mom, so you gotta rock it.
Well, see, now you could get, just mom. Just, that's all you need.
Just a t-shirt that says mom, period.
Yeah, you don't need,
That's enough said there.
People need to understand that you're a girl mom when they look at you and go, why are you wearing glitter? I didn't need to wear glitter today. One of the kids must have played in it 6 years ago, and
it's still on me.
It's the herpes of the craft world.
I know someone else he's a girl dad, and he's like, yeah, we have all girls, so we don't do a lot of wrestling, or there's not a lot of mud in my house, but we do cry a lot.
Well, see, now we don't have those girls. They're absolutely in the dirt. But they're crying in the dirt. They're having an emotional breakdown while playing in the grass. And throwing grass. And you're like, you realize if you quit throwing grass, it wouldn't be in your eyes and we wouldn't have this problem.
That's the t-shirt, crying in the dirt.
There, see?
Okay, we can sell these. Let's do it. You can have them sitting by
our new merch.
Yeah, seriously. That could be your team merch.
Yeah.
So, I've hinted I've said that they're a team, and they have a really, really specific reason why they would be a team, because they're connected in a way that very, very few other people would be connected, and that's really cool, and I'll let them tell most of the story, but to tee it up, they kind of share a kid, which is really interesting, and now that you're at the edge of your seats, why don't you guys take it away with your story?
Yeah, so I was 21 years old when I found out that I was pregnant. I had been on and off dating a guy for about a year, and it was never an official relationship kind of thing. It was just on and off, never talking to other people, but it was just never a committed thing. And I had my first ever anxiety attack and I'd never experienced one. So I couldn't understand why I was acting so crazy, and he couldn't understand why I was acting so crazy. And that was kind of ended up with us officially just ending it. It was a few weeks after that I was on my way to work and I suddenly felt like, holy cow, I'm going to throw up. So I pulled over and threw up in the parking lot at the mall.
Such great memories.
Yeah, it was a great moment. And I just figured, great, I have my mom's stomach bug, because she had gotten a stomach bug over it 2 or 3 days before that, and never thought anything else of it. And me and my ex all of our friends were the same friends. So I had been telling my girlfriends that I had thrown up and I was sick, so I had to cancel plans. And it kind of, they're like, could you be pregnant? And I'm like, no, there's no way. That's the most ridiculous question anyone could ask me. And I ended up, they told him, and he kind of was just like, could you just take a test just to make sure? And so I had a friend come by after I closed the store that next night, and she had brought 3 tests, and I took all 3, and we were sitting there waiting for the 3 minutes or whatever. And that was the longest 3 minutes of my life.
Oh, yeah.
And I go in and get them because the timer went off, and I'm looking at them, and they both have 2 lines. And the second one was really light. So I'm like, maybe they're all wrong. And my friend was saying the same thing. She's like, no, yeah, I think we should go get more. I'm like, okay. So went to the store, I got the ones that were, said pregnant or not pregnant, because that's more official, I guess. And those 2 came back saying I was pregnant. So I think after 5 tests, I was pretty certain
that one though, maybe not.
And, but I hadn't cried at that point. It just didn't seem real, because I was just 21 years old, and I never thought I'd be in that situation. I had friends that had been in that situation, but I just didn't think that would be me. And I was going to meet up with my ex and another one of my friends, and I called my sister, and, she and I are super close, so she's the one I told anything to, because I'm an adopted child as well, mm-hmm. and my birth mom was 15 and my birth dad was 16, and they, decided to place me for adoption, and so my parents adopted me and then got pregnant with my sister. So I always kind of say, I think God knew I was going to go through some really hard stuff, so I was going to need a sister. Mm-hmm. And so I called her and I just said, I need to talk to you about something. And she just goes, you're pregnant, aren't you? She just knew. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pregnant. And she said, okay, you've got 3 choices here. You can keep the baby, you can do an adoption, or you can have an abortion. And she was like, no matter what you choose, I will support you and I'll love you. It'll be okay. Mm-hmm. And I told her, pretty immediately that I said I had 2 options. I can keep the baby or do an adoption. I'm not going to have an abortion. And that was just a really easy decision for me, because my birth mom had the same choice. Mm-hmm. If my parents hadn't adopted me, I would have been an abortioned child. And so I felt like since I had that chance at life, I needed to do the same thing for my child.
Yeah.
And so that was just pretty quickly and I never looked back at that option. It was just never looked at
around the table.
Yeah. And I know for some people it's not as easy, but I did with my history, and it was just easy for me to not do that.
Yeah, but I've talked to other birth moms, and I think that even moms that have a pretty strict value system, where that would be, before they got pregnant, that would have just never ever been an option, and then when they find out they're pregnant, it still goes through your mind. Mm-hmm. And I know that I've talked to you about that too, that mm-hmm. even though previously you probably would have been never would I have an abortion, but it's still there. Mm-hmm. That option is still there, and that's still a super brave choice mm-hmm. on your part.
Thank you. But But yeah, so fast forward, ended up going to the doctor and I was 7 weeks along. And again, called my sister and it still hadn't really sunk in. Like even after all of that, I was still just like, I had probably cried at that point, but I just wasn't, it didn't seem real. And when I called my sister after that appointment, she was like, okay, well, I'll come over to the house because she was living on campus at the U of A at the time. She's like, I'll come over and I'll be with you when you tell mom and dad. And that was when I lost it. Like that was when I was just like, oh my gosh, like my sister was always the goody kid, you know, and I was the one that I had been in a really bad relationship for like 7 years that was just really verbally and mentally abusive. And like that really tore me and my parents' relationship apart. And so I was just like, it was kind of in the men's and I was so terrified to like disappoint them. Yeah. Because, you know, I think that's the worst thing for a parent to say to you is like, I'm not mad at you and I'm not upset. I'm just really disappointed. Oh yeah. And I was like, I don't want to hear that. And that was when I reality just like crashed into me. And I was like, this is the thing. Like I'm pregnant and I'm going to have to tell people besides my sister and these 2 people that I've told. And ended up sitting down with them and I have never been more scared in my entire life. I had it all in my head. I'm like, they're going to kick me out. They're like, I had already talked with friends about staying with them and like what I was going to do because I just knew that was what was going to happen. I mean, that's what they would say when I was in high school. Like, if you get pregnant, we're kicking you out. And I mean, I know that's a scare tactic, but I was taking it quite seriously.
Right. As you do.
Yeah. And sat with them and kind of was trying to tell them, but I couldn't get anything to come out. And I've never been one to be speechless. And my sister finally was like, do you need me to tell them? And I'm like, yeah. And she just goes, well, Lana's pregnant. Just very, you know, rip off the Band-Aid. Might as well. Like, couldn't have, like, eased them in or anything like that. But that conversation went completely opposite of anything I could have imagined. I mean, like, they were silent for a minute, but then it was just like, okay, well, we'll figure this out. Like, it's okay. We love you. It's something that happened and it's happening. There's nothing we can do about it. So we're just gonna love you and we'll figure it all out. And that's how it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So, before you move on with your part of the story, let's jump over because this is not, you know, Rachael wasn't a page in a book that you flipped through. So meanwhile, how did you find out that your client was pregnant?
Okay. And if you hear me crying, please, yeah.
You will not be the first one.
So, when she got done talking to her mom, I got a call from her mom. She and I are friends, and she said, Lana's pregnant. And I said, congratulations. And she said, well, I said, no. I said, just stop right there. It doesn't matter what is going on, what came before this, or what's coming next. Just congratulations. It's a baby. We're happy.
Yeah.
And I'm telling her this. I'm like, that's just the way it is. That's it. And she was like, yeah. So she came up and she saw me at work. And, you know, we sat and talked and kind of prayed into it for a minute. And she had been on my prayer team praying into my husband and I's adoption team. So we'd had some failed attempts, you know, had a few things that just hadn't worked out for us up to that point. So she knew that I had a heart that it doesn't matter. Like, every baby is a blessing to somebody. You know, you may have to wait and figure it out, but every baby is a blessing. So her mom was, you know, I knew, but I also know her sister. And, you know, when she said that, you know, her sister just ripped the Band-Aid off, like, that is the way her sister is. Like, if you...
Very blunt.
Well, it's not blunt. It's effective. She is an effective communicator.
You'd be a great PR person.
You do not wonder what she's thinking. You don't walk in the room and go, I wonder if she... No. You walk in and you're like, oh, that's the mood she's in today. Okay, let's move on. So, you know, our families her sister had been our nanny. Mm-hmm. So like I said, you know, my first batch of kids are older. They're 17 and 19. And her sister had helped us take care of them. With the oldest one being an emotionally and medically fragile child, she couldn't be left alone. So they had a hangout person for an excessive amount of time. And so, Lana had been in our house. Mm-hmm. She house sat for me. She is part of our family. So the fact that this came along is just, it's kind of what happened next. So, she told her parents and, her mom told me. So, trickle-down effect.
So, and it wasn't on your mind immediately like, oh, this is going to be my kid.
No.
Yeah.
I looked at it that she was going to be a single mom. Mm-hmm. She's an amazing person, and I knew she could absolutely do this. Like, to be a single mom, it's going to suck a little bit, but she could totally do it. It was never a question. So I was thinking, I'm going to be a family friend. I'm going to get to be like an aunt.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like the cool aunt. So
yeah, you were going to be her advocate, and that was your truest intention. And I think that that's beautiful. That there was no hidden plan or intention on your part, which is awesome.
My husband and I had given up adoption. In fact, just before this had happened, we downsized cars, which may not seem like much, but I'd had a minivan for years.
Yeah. Having
2 children and expecting more. We were gonna fill up a minivan, which is ridiculous. If anybody, there's a handful of people that should try it. No. So we had downsized to a Civic. My husband had bought me the cutest little Honda Civic. It was so cute. It was so tiny. So tiny.
Little clown car.
That's so funny. I'm sure God was just like, that's adorable.
Yeah. That's cute the way you planned that out.
You knew.
Yeah. Okay, so you're pregnant. Mm-hmm. What next?
At that point, like I said, I had the 2 choices, and I was set on keeping the baby. And that was kind of influenced, from her father as well. That was just kind of what he was wanting. So I'm a kind of a people pleaser, or I was anyway at that time. And so I wasn't really looking at anything else, but I spent a lot of most of my pregnancy, but especially the beginning. I mean, I'm 21. All my friends are 21. That's when you go out and you're experiencing all that stuff. And I couldn't do that. And I didn't expect anyone else to put their life on hold because of, what was going on with me. And so I spent a lot of time home by myself, or with my parents. And one night I sat down and I'm like, well, if I'm going to do this, I have to have a plan, because this isn't something you can just not have any sort of plan.
Right.
For.
Wing it.
Yeah, I couldn't just wing it. And so I sat down and I had paper and a pen, and I started making a list of how I was going to do this and all that. And I'm doing it, and I'm like, okay, this is a great idea. Oh, right. That's awesome. Okay, that's how I'll do this. Yes. Yeah. And I finished it, and I started rereading it, and I was just what? That is not reasonable at all whatsoever. Because I didn't want to have, it was my responsibility, and I didn't want to expect, my parents to do this or anything like that. And I had all the support. All of my friends supported me. My family supported me. It wasn't that. It wasn't money. I could come up with that. It wasn't any of that. It was just I didn't want to have a single parent house home. I didn't want her to have to be bounced all over the place and have to work 4 jobs to be able to provide her with just what she needs and maybe stuff that she wanted. And so at that point, that was when I just completely flipped from that to, okay, I need to look at adoption. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't really upset about that at any point, because I'm adopted too, so my whole life exists because of that. So it was never a super difficult decision at that moment. But it was getting my ex on board with that too. That was and I really wanted it to be a mutual thing to make things a lot easier. But he just kind of didn't really want to hear it. And, I convinced him to go with me to Bethany Christian Services and made an appointment there. And we went, and I'm just keep an open mind, please. Just do this for me. And we went, and the woman, I don't even remember who I spoke with, but she was so nice and just kind of like told her my story and where I was at. And she kind of told me about everything that they do. And I told her right off the bat that I strictly only wanted to look at families interested in open adoptions. And that was just because my adoption was closed. And I know that's necessary sometimes. But what was hard for me was when I turned 18 and being able to find my birth mom. I had gone 18 years literally not even having a picture. I had no idea what she looked like, nothing until I was 18. So when that all came into play, it was a lot for me and it was very overwhelming. And there was just stuff growing up that I'm like, oh, it would have been kind of cool to be able to be like, so like, tell me about this, or like, why'd you choose this, or like anything, any questions. Like answer
medical history questions accurately.
That was the worst. I didn't have any of that. And anytime I had anything going to the doctor, it was like, I'm adopted. I don't know anything. So I really just wanted open adoption. And she kind of just explained how that usually works and that we made another appointment so that she could pull some like books and stuff for me to go through. And we left there and he was like, no, like, I'm not doing that. That's not going to work for me. And I'm like, but that's what I really want to do. Like, it sounds perfect. Like, that's what I want to do. And trying to do some more convincing on him, but he didn't go to the next appointment with me. And that's when I got all the books and I took them home and I was sitting there looking through them and I was really adamant on, a 2-parent household. I really wanted them to be Christian. I really wanted them to have at least one other kid just because my sister was like my rock and I wanted, my child to be able to have that person too. But I was kind of basing it off that. And then it kind of got a little ridiculous. And I started being like, oh, they're cat people. I don't like cats. And when it got to be that point, I just stopped and I'm like, okay. I felt like I was trying to play God. And I felt like I was doing something that wasn't something that I should have been doing. And I'm like, if he chose me to bring this child into the world, like he can choose who her parents are going to be. So I was just like, please God, just give me a sign, like just do something to like tell me who they are when they come along. And so I'll know, but this is up to you at this point. Like I didn't want to have any part in that at that point because it just didn't feel right to me and I couldn't settle on anything at all.
But I think clearly there was a reason for that, right? Exactly.
And so I had made another appointment to go, but at that point I had a hair appointment and I went to go see Rachael between that moment when I was like, this is up to you, God. And, I went there and she did my hair. She was acting a little weird, not as talkative as normal. And so I kind of knew something was up, but I really wasn't sure. And then when she finished, she was like, okay, so I kind of need to talk to you about something. And if you want me to shut up at any point, just tell me to shut up. And I'm like, okay, like what's going to happen? So I guess you can kind of fill them in on what you said to me.
Well, I had approached her and said, listen, as you know, Ivan and I have tried to adopt. It didn't work out. If you are interested in placing your baby, we would love to be her parents. But at the same time, if you want to keep her, I want to be here for you. Like I'll be here either way. But just know that, Ivan and I have looked at this and I don't know, I was just talking out of the side of my mouth at the time. I was so nervous because I didn't want to offend her because, who comes up to somebody and, has that conversation with them? And it's one of those things that I'm not typically a timid person, but that conversation was scary.
That's why you're acting so weird.
I was like, well, and at the same time, like as I'm working on her and I'm praying about it and I'm like, okay, like for real, like, God, if this is from me, just give me a sign. Well, she's still here. So, I mean, that's gotta be a good sign. And, just going through, a 2-hour process with somebody and you know, we're talking about what's going to happen next. And, you know, well, what are you going to do with your hair? How are we going to, you know, do your hair through pregnancy? You know, all of these life type conversations. And, you know, I talked to her sister, and her sister, you know, informed me that she was really thinking of adoption, and that the, you know, father was thinking that. And I said, well, you know, I want to be there either way. Mm-hmm. Like, I love babies, and just to love on this baby and squish on this baby either way.
Yeah.
But
I love that, though. I don't know. This is like my third face-to-face conversation with both of these women, and every time I've just been amazed at Rachel, your just resolve to love Lana no matter what she chose. And I think that is so, so beautiful, that there wasn't selfishness on your part, and that even if she had chosen another family, you still would have wanted to be there and loved her through that process.
She's family.
Yeah.
You know, she's the family that I picked. But some family I don't claim, but I really like Lana.
But that was what, like, stuck out to me, was when, and if that, I mean, if none of y'all know her, like, and that just tells you about who she is as a person. And I think for me, that was like, I went home after, and that was the first time I was like, okay, like, I can kind of breathe a little bit. Like, I actually felt, because my pregnancy was very stressful and I had kidney pain the whole time, and I didn't feel good, and I was all by myself, and that was the first time I was like, okay, like, there's some sort of relief there. And I hadn't felt that at all looking through any of the other books or anything like that. And so I talked to her birth father about it, and he didn't know them. So I'm like, well, like, get to know them, because they're literally the coolest people ever. Like, you can't not like them. Like, if you don't like them, there's something wrong with you. And so we kind of went through that process a little bit, but it was still just like, his family wasn't very supportive of it. And, you know, for me, it was a lot easier because my parents had adopted. So my whole family, like, understood adoption and how it worked, and the significance of it, and how cool it is. And his family hadn't, and I think that was a really heavy influence. But it finally got to the point where I was like, no, I want them to be her parents. Like, I've made my decision. And so we met with them. I had dropped my parents off the day before to fly off to Washington, D.C. And so we met with them that Sunday met with Rachel and Ivan at Red Robin. And I was going to tell them, like, I wanted them to be her parents. And so...
And you were how many weeks at this point?
32.
Yeah, I was 32.
Right. So it was not early.
Not early. Kind of waited a little bit too long.
Well, no, you waited just the right amount of time.
It worked out.
Perfect amount of time.
Yeah. You had a few things to check off your list before you got to that decision.
Exactly. But I told them that I wanted them to be her parent, and we left lunch that day, and I was getting into his truck, and I felt a little bit of a rush, and I was like, well, okay, like, I don't know what that was. I honestly might have peed my pants a little bit because, you know, there's weird stuff happening, okay? And I got home, and it was just kind of all the rest of the afternoon. I was really uncomfortable. I was never really in pain, but it was just uncomfortable. And I was home by myself, so I'm like, I don't have my nurse mom to be like, Mom, like, what's happening? And I called my sister, and she's like, yeah, like, let's call the on-call nurse and just double check. And my sister's in nursing school too, so I'm just surrounded by nurses.
Yeah.
And I called her, and she's like, yeah, you should probably come in. We'll just check you out. It's probably nothing, but just to be safe. And I'm like, panic mode automatically because my mommy wasn't there and my dad wasn't there. So my sister and brother-in-law came to pick me up from Fayetteville, and my brother-in-law was really pumped because he got to drive with the emergency flashes on all the way there. And so he felt like he was in the Fast and the Furious, and took me to the hospital, ended up getting checked, and my water had broke. So literally, like, within 2 minutes of leaving the restaurant, of telling them that I wanted them to adopt her, my water broke.
So you were all the way in labor.
Like, okay, God, I think that's a big enough sign that I made the right choice, and that this is kind of what's supposed to happen.
So before you move on, I think that, and this again, we've talked about it a few times now, but this goes, Rachel's selflessness. So after you told her you, Rachel, I mean, you were not, like, squealing. Because, again, you'd had your heart broken a few times, but you were still saying, like, okay, that's great, but even if you decide last minute, I'm still going to be here for you, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you were not, like, fully, this is happening yet, right?
No, I had not claimed the baby. I was like, this is still, this is Lana's baby. It's still, this is where we're at. And so I got a text message at 11 o'clock. Like, we had lunch at 2 o'clock. Mm-hmm. We got done having lunch. I went to Walmart, and I was like, okay, like, I feel it necessary to do something to prepare for this baby, but I do not want to go overboard. Mm-hmm. So I had bought a package of Binkies.
Yeah.
And I went home, and I had a package of Binkies, and I was saying, this is great. If this baby lives in my house, she'll need Binkies. If this baby lives at Lana's house, I haven't gone out and spent, a month's wage on a room full of baby stuff. I'm keeping it in check. Mm-hmm. This is absolutely something that would be reasonable to give to Lana for a baby. And I had this package of Binkies, and I'm sitting in bed, and my husband was working nights, and I was really like just thinking about this and praying into it and going, okay. And I get a text, and it's from her sister, and it's 11 o'clock at night. And it says, we're in the hospital, and Lana's membranes have ruptured, and we're here. They're admitting her. So I text her back. I said, well, should I come up there? And she says, no, wait till in the morning. I said, okay. So, I'm still like, I need to keep my space. If she wants me there, that's great. If not, that's cool too. So I stay up that night.
Never went to sleep.
Of course.
And I'm like, okay, so I take the first batch of kids to school and get them to school. And I go and tell my boss, hey, listen, I've got a week's vacation coming. I'm out. I don't know what's going on, but,
I'll let you know when I know.
Yeah. Peace out. This is not going to happen today. So Lana had wanted her toes painted. So we went and got some polish. I'm like, okay. I go up there and, just sitting with her, just being there. And what I assumed was once the membranes are ruptured, you got 24 hours. Mm-hmm. That is what I had always lived. But when we got there, they said, no, it's a slow leak. We're going to give her, they'd given her the magnesium sulfate. Mm-hmm. And
I wouldn't wish that on my
yummy,
worst
right?
enemy, honestly.
And she was miserable and sick and just in want of a shower.
I couldn't shower for 5 days. Rachel washed my hair in a bucket, though.
Oh, I was about to say, you as a hair lady, you're probably like, oh, honey, let me fix
for
this.
me.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
gave me leg and arm massages. Because my parents couldn't get back until like Wednesday. And yeah, I was bedridden. I had a catheter. I couldn't get up to do anything. It was hot. It was the absolute worst ever.
And she was having the hot flashes that come with that medication. And it was making her so sick. And up until that very moment, I was not the pukey parent. If somebody got sick, I pieced out fast.
Yeah, yeah.
And Lana got sick, and I was like, that's cool. Here, I got this. Let me hold the bucket for you.
Wow.
And it was such a change in me. Mm-hmm. But, like, to watch her in labor. And we had an episode, like, throughout she was in labor for 5 days. Not like a normal labor.
Yeah.
Like, they held off her labor. They gave her 2 of the steroid shots. They gave her 2 doses of the magnesium sulfate. They just drug her along. They were pumping her so full of fluids. She was sick. It was just sad. And there was, at one point, the nurse came in and she said, okay, I need everybody but family to leave. There were a couple of visitors. We're like, okay, gather my stuff. I'm going to step out. And Lana goes, you can stay. And this nurse, who was not the nicest nurse I've ever met, turned and goes, well, who is she? And Lana in this bed for like day 3 at this point, and just sick and in labor. And if you've ever seen anybody in that state, then you understand the selflessness that this took. She looked at the nurse and she goes, she's the mom. And you're like, okay, I'm here. I'm in. I'm in.
I just when you first, you were like, really?
But yeah.
Oh, I love it. And yeah, I mean, if anyone had earned that baby, it was Lana.
Yes.
But yeah, that selflessness. Oh, man, it gets me every time. I've heard this story 3 times now, and I just love it. Okay, so jump back over to Lana. What did it take to make that decision? I mean, in that spot, you were. I mean, I'm sure that went through your mind, and you're like, if I have made it this far, surely I can do this. But
yeah, I had to put her needs above my wants, and it wasn't about me anymore at that point. Like, I was not a factor in this besides being like the home that she was growing in. I was nothing else besides that at that point. It wasn't about me ever. And it was always about her and what was going to be the absolute best for her, because, I did have support and I did have, the financial means if I needed to do that, but it really wasn't about that, because I wanted to have absolutely the best life that she could have and what was going to, just be the best for her. And so it was just a really simple decision at that point for me. And I had come that far, and I felt like, my water breaking right at that moment, and I was early, was like a big enough sign for me. And yeah, I never looked back after I had made that decision to do adoption.
Ever. I love that. And so I know that, I mean, you guys did some formalities just legally, but besides that, Rachel, did it ever cross your mind for this to be anything but as open of an adoption as it is?
Oh, no. Okay. No. In fact, like, not only is she part of our family, but she was even so supportive of Adrian through those formative months. She pumped and gave us milk, and we had enough milk for 4 months.
Wow.
So, I mean, this baby had the best start that Lana could possibly give her.
Yeah. Well, and as, quote, beautiful as breastfeeding is, I mean, as a mom, you are ready to have your body back.
Yes. Well, and this is not like a breastfeeding mom. This is not, I have breastfed a baby, and I could roll over in the middle of the night and feed that kid while I was 2/3 of the way asleep.
Right.
She pumped milk. So she got up every 3 hours. She got out that pump. She used it. She pumped the milk. She stored the milk. She cleaned the pump. She sanitized the pump. And then got a few hours of sleep before it was time to do it again.
Yeah. Goodness.
My husband and I were able to switch off feedings so that you would get some sleep. She did every single feeding, but without a baby.
Right.
Like, what a trooper.
Yeah. Not all heroes wear capes, Lana. I love it. And so, fast forward a little bit. She's 3 now. And super cute. I've seen pictures. Never met her in person. But, I mean, she knows who Lana is. And I know that, we can't, play the video here. But, I mean, what does she say? And who is Lana to her?
She says, she will tell you about the day she was born. And you can say, Adrian, do you remember the day you were born? And she will say, yes. She said, I was in my Lana's tummy, and then I jumped out, and I jumped in your arms. Huh, Mommy? And, she is so aware of the fact that, she's got pictures of her in Lana's tummy. Mm-hmm. For Easter, Lana had painted her belly like an Easter egg. And Adrian loves that picture. She was asking if that was her Halloween costume one time. Absolutely. For Easter, definitely. That was your Halloween costume for Easter. So, I mean, she knows that, that's where she came from.
Right.
She doesn't know the logistics yet. She'll figure that out. Maybe for her 30th birthday. But, between now and then, that's what she knows. And she knows that she loves her Lana. And she'll make things for Lana, and it's always very much her Lana. Mm-hmm.
So talk about her name.
She is named Adrian Carlana Lopez. Mm-hmm. And my husband's middle name is Adrian. My family name is Carl or Carla, so we took that, and then Lana. So she is named after, we have the Carlana, And she knows that, that's where her name came from, that she's named after her Lana, and she's a family baby. Like, every part of her family is reflected in her. And that is, my husband, that is my family, that is Lana, that is all the people that are, her people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. So I have a few things that I want to discuss before we jump into these questions. And none of them really flow, but I just love them all. So first of all, let's talk about Adrian's boyfriend, Nick.
AKA my husband. Trying to steal my man.
So Nick is not Adrian's father.
No.
Or birth father, I'm sorry. But he loves her, and she loves him. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I met Nick just a few months after I had Adrian, and I wasn't looking for anything, and I was still breast pumping and stuff, and it was really weird for me because my life changed. But then after I had Adrian, it kind of, went back to normal because I didn't have, this baby that I was having to take care of. And so everything goes back to normal, but I'm not the same person that's, living the life that I was living. And I'm a different person living the same life. And I just hadn't even dating anyone had not crossed my mind. I was not even interested in that at all. But then this really cute boy came across my Instagram feed, and it just kind of turned into a back and forth liking each other's pictures until I finally was I'll just message him and see what he's doing whatever.
Some social media flirting.
Yeah. And we ended up, meeting up, and we met in a park, and that sounds really weird, but I already knew who he was because he had dated someone I used to work with. So I knew he wasn't a serial killer or anything like that. And we met up and we just talked for 6 hours. And I remember the first question he asked me, because my stuff was very public. My pregnancy was very public. From the get-go, I was just people are going to see me at some point, and it's very obvious. I'm a very tiny person, so it's not something I can really easily hide, this round watermelon belly. And so I was very public with everything. And then with the adoption, I made a post about, the decision, because it had to happen a lot quicker than I was planning. And he just straight up asked me, so what was it like to have a baby? And I knew that some people would be that's really weird to ask. But for me, it was just I could just relax, because I didn't have to be okay, how do I have to go into this with him? And he was just very he's one of those people, he will just ask questions. He's very inquisitive, and that's how he gets to know people. And he just asked me questions, and I told him, and it was never it was just okay. That was it. It was never, I had to I never felt I had to explain myself or tell him well, this is why I did it. Felt I was going to be judged for it. It was just very okay, cool. On to the next question, I guess.
Yeah.
Very laid back. And I had never, I had told them whenever, I did have someone that came into my life, I wasn't going to bring anyone to meet Adrian unless I knew they were going to be around for a really long time. And he'll tell you too, it was just kind of one of those love at first sight things, which sounds really cheesy, and I didn't think that happened besides in movies, but it does. And I, met him or brought him around them, and it was just instantly it was a connection, and he totally just was fine with it. It was just normal.
Yeah.
And
this is fine. He's not, Adrian felt the same, love at first sight.
Yeah.
She, told her tonight that,
I'm chopped
Lana was
liver
coming
at
over.
this point. It's always Nick's coming over.
And she's is
That's
Nick
fine.
coming?
I think he's pretty cool too.
Which actually, our husbands ended up working together.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just, that there was Nick. Nick and Ivan, had their stuff, and they get along really well. So it makes it really easy.
They're playing video games at the house together right now while we're here. So
Adrian's babysitting. She's husband sitting right now. Let's see. Yeah, she might be in bed by 10 tonight, because she can't go to sleep if Nick is still in the house.
Oh my gosh.
She's
They kind of fake it out where he just goes and stands outside for a while.
yeah.
Maybe. You should stand at the window. No, his car's still here. I like that car.
I'm not that dumb.
I love it. And so she was in your wedding, right?
Yes. Yeah, we had her. She was our flower girl, which made everyone cry. So everyone cried at that point, and then Nick cried, which made everyone else cry even more. I think they were all cried out by the time I walked out.
Yeah, like she made it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, she was coming. I thought somebody was missing."
But yeah, that was really like super, super special to me, and that was, obviously I asked them if that would be something they'd be okay with, and I obviously wanted to make sure it was something she was fine with doing, because I've never been like, if she doesn't want to do it, that's totally fine.
Right.
But if it gets to be the day of and she's like freaking out and doesn't want to do it, that's totally fine too. If you need to carry her down the aisle, that works for me. I don't care.
And it ended up being like one of my other daughters walked down the aisle with her. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was a family thing. It wasn't, I was on the front row.
Yeah,
we were there with her parents. Like, it was her parents and then me.
Yeah,
so awesome.
I had them sit on the, family, the front row.
Her aunts were behind me.
Yeah.
I felt so bad. I was like, deal. I was like, well, like that's, that's her aunt. And everybody was so cool with it. I was like, I hope they don't, because with us being the adoptive parents, we've always kind of worried that, people would feel like we had taken Adrian, because Lana was she's an amazing person, but she was so capable of being a single parent, and her choice was amazing. But we have, kind of encountered some people through the years that have really questioned our intentions with taking her baby. And it's like, well, no. And, the people that will come up and question us. So that was kind of strange, like, to be there and, to have the baby. And everybody was great, though. It was all in my head. Yeah. Or maybe it wasn't. But everybody kept their mouth shut.
So, okay, if we can separate the two of you from each other, not physically, but separate your stories a little bit. So, Lana, as a birth mom, obviously, I think that your situation has worked out a lot better than maybe you would have even hoped for, but certainly than most get, which is awesome. But as a birth mom, what are some of the really, really hard things? Was there ever any jealousy or regrets even?
My biggest fear was leaving the hospital, because I knew that I was making the right decision, but it was also weird because I was like, I'm going to come home and I'm not going to have anything, but I was still pumping. So it was just like, I knew I was fine at the time, but I wasn't sure when I got home, like, what that was going to result in. So I convinced my parents to let me get a puppy. And so my little Daisy May was my little, replacement little baby that she got up with me when I, pumped and all of that. But my biggest thing that I was terrified of was coming home. And then it was also, I do have really bad, social anxiety now, and I didn't have that before, but I think it's just come from, me not knowing what people were going to think about me. And like I said, I'm an open book. So if people want to ask me questions, ask away, I'll answer anything. But I was just so scared of people just assuming things. Right. And not knowing the full story, or, being like, well, you could have done it. So why would you choose that? So that was kind of my biggest fears. And I still struggle with that, just because we had a lot of mutual friends. And so there'll be people that I see and I'm like, oh,
you and the birth dad.
Yes. And I'm like, I don't know what they think about me. I don't know if they like me or they don't, or, what. And then, I also struggle with feeling guilty because my story is so good. I think because it's not, and I got really lucky with mine, and not everyone's like that. And so I struggle with feeling guilty about that sometimes, but I think that there are people with stories like mine to be able to help people that don't have stories like mine. to be, you know, a shoulder to cry on, or to be somebody to help them figure out resources and what their options are, and that they do have a say, and that they, you know, can wait until they find something that fits them, because that's how I was. I didn't, you know, I had all these options of like these open adoptions where I could have, you know, pictures every this and that, and I didn't want to settle for just that. So I struggle with the guilt with that a lot, especially when I hear other people's stories, because I got really blessed and lucky with mine.
Yeah. You held out for the people who would feed you and let you see their kid.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So, and I think that, you know, we've already talked about your husband, that you didn't settle. You got some really awesome stuff. And I think that instead of feeling guilty, I mean, you can give people hope that those things do exist. There are guys out there that are not going to shame you for your decision. And there are adoptive families out there that are as awesome as the Lopez's. And I think that that is so, so amazing. So I think that I wanted to bring this up because in episode 1 of this season, I talked to Christy Harmon, who is she was adopted and now she's a birth mom counselor. And I asked her what the number one reason after they go through birth mom counseling, after they go through this whole process, why they still choose abortion. And she said the number one reason is it's birth moms that could theoretically parent. They have the means, they have the resources, they have the support, they just don't want to, or they feel like they're not in that place, or they don't want their child to have a single parent situation or something like that. And that shame just gets the best of them. And I love that that's not your story, that all of those things were true for you and you truly put her first. I don't know. I think that that's just so beautiful. And I know that Rachel, you agree on those things. I mean, we've talked about this, but just that selflessness that we've been talking about. I love that. So what about you on your side? What are some of the, maybe, I don't want to say negative feelings, but what were some of the hard things? You know, you didn't get to feed that baby. You didn't get to carry that baby. So what were, I don't know, what are some of the struggles and joys?
Well, I'd have to say none of that was struggles. I had horrible pregnancies. I had, 2 biological children, and they were horrible pregnancies. I had postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis. I had postpartum psychosis with my oldest daughter when she was born, and we were told she wouldn't make it. And I just lost it. I had postpartum depression with my second daughter. They were both preemies. It was awful. I hit the jackpot. I didn't have to be pregnant. I didn't have to throw up. I didn't have to breastfeed. I breastfed for an excessive amount of time with my second daughter. And it was great. Breastfeeding is amazing. It's so natural, and it sucks the life out of you. One little tiny mouth at a time. And so it was great. And, I too feel a lot of guilt in that I hit the baby jackpot. Like I said, I had 2 biological children that were not perfect. They are great humans. They have overcome so much in their lives. But Adrienne came to us and she slept well. She spent 30 days in the NICU, which actually ended up being a really great transition because, like I said, we knew for 9 hours that we were getting a baby. And so we're thinking, okay, she chose us and the baby's here and she's still saying this baby's going home with us, but there's a real possibility this baby's sleeping in a drawer. So we had 30 days to kind of get, stuff together. And what was amazing for us and was such a blessing was not only did my family come alongside me and my church and, just everybody, but her family also came into my home and blessed us and, was there and was loving on us as Adrienne's parents. And that was, her family gave us a playpen with a bassinet. And that's what Adrienne slept in next to my bed for months so that she was right there. And, to have, a baby given to us and have milk given to us and have the baby stuff given to us, I really felt like I was kind of cheating the whole mom system. I didn't have to be pregnant. I didn't have to do any of that. I just got the cookies.
Yeah.
So, it It was pretty awesome. Still pretty is.
Oh, I love it. So, okay, if you guys are cool with it, let's jump into some of these questions. And they're going to be vastly different for the two of you because they're on two different sides of things. One is a birth mother and one is an adoptive mother. It just happens to be of the same child, which is really cool. So, Lana, what is something that you wish someone had told you at the beginning of this journey?
I wish I had somebody that was there to tell me kind of all the emotions that I was going to go through. Especially after, because there were days that I was like really happy and this was totally cool. And then out of the blue, I'd be really sad, but it wasn't because I was like, what did I do? Like this was the wrong choice, but it was just like, there was a thing that was in me and now it's gone. And, you know, your body was still, I was still going through all the stuff that any normal, you know, mom would have gone through. And I wish that I had somebody that was like, you're going to go through this emotion and this emotion. And sometimes you're going to be really angry and sometimes you're going to be happy and then you're going to be sad. And that's totally fine. Like that's 100% normal because I would be going through those emotions probably if I had had kept her, I would still be going through all that emotional stuff. And yeah, that was kind of, you know, or at least someone that I could have related to that was like, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it might suck sometimes, but it's also really great. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's great. What about you, Rachel? What do you wish someone had told you at the beginning?
People are going to ask stupid questions.
Yes.
I guess I thought, I know moms that have adopted, and I know people that have adopted babies, and like I've known people and I got this. And then people will open their mouth and ask you a question. You're like, you know what? I haven't bit anybody today, but you could be my first. And just the things that people will ask you. I had no idea. I really wish somebody had just passed me a note ahead of time that said, you know, when they ask you stupid questions, it's okay to bite them. So that's what I wish, you know, because people, like, I don't know if they were confused and the fact that we have an open adoption is different because most of the adoptions I know, they don't have, you know, Lana would come pretty regularly. And, you know, the birth dad came pretty regularly in the beginning too. And so, you know, when people would ask us stupid questions, we're like, are you afraid she's going to take the baby home with her? Well, since I have a car seat, probably not.
I also know where she lives. So.
Yeah. Like if she, so it was, you know, I think people were just maybe confused and it resulted in some stupid questions.
They assumed Lana was like a drug addict or something like that.
Well, and that was something else. I am like extremely protective of my Lana just because she is more than anybody else in this world has ever, you know, like she loves me more than anybody else. Like nobody else has ever made that choice for me. And so when you say something like, you know, well, was she on drugs? Oh, could she not take care of the baby? Like, you're going to get bitten. Yeah. I'm going to have to say something not nice, and it's going to hurt your feelings, and I'm not going to get 2 cares. It's just the way it's fixing to go down.
Yeah.
So, like, just don't say, and that it was okay to be protective.
Yeah.
Because I felt like if I was not, I don't even know how to, like, word it, but, like, that it was okay to be protective, and if people said dumb things, it was okay. Because I felt like I needed to be friendly to people. And, like, honestly, when it comes down to that, it's the same thing. You don't let people kiss your newborn baby. I'm not going to let you trash talk my birth mama. It's not going to happen.
Right. Gives me all the feels. I'm, like, trying not to tear up. I'm trying to keep it composed over here. Okay. So what is something, Lana, that you wish you had done differently?
Really nothing. I wish that I had maybe been a little more open, like publicly with the adoption stuff but I also thought I had a little more time to ease everyone into that and kind of prepare them because I did, you know, I struggled with like, this was, you know, she was my baby, but she was also like my mom and dad's grandchild and my sister's niece. And, you know, that was really hard because for me, it was an easy choice. And I'm like, this is simple for me, but I'm also taking this from everyone else. And so I kind of wish that I had maybe eased everyone into it a little more easily, than kind of just dropping it on them last minute. But, you know,
Yeah.
other than that, I don't know. I don't really have anything that I wish I had kind of done differently. It just kind of all worked out, and that's only because of God. There is no other. I struggled a lot with God at the beginning of it, and I think after, I'm like, I don't know how people don't believe in God, because I would not have survived that if it hadn't been for him. There's no way.
Yeah.
At all.
Oh, I love that. And this is a complete side note, but it's something I didn't think about earlier. Does she know your family as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She knows all them. Yeah.
What are they to her?
Whatever she wants to call them. And that was like, you know, when we were at the hospital, Rachel was like, what do you want her to call you? And I'm like, whatever she wants to call me. Like, if she wants to call me, you know, a silly name, that's totally fine. If she wants to call me, you know, Lana, that's fine. Aunt Lana, that's totally fine. It's whatever she wants. And if it changes throughout her aging, like, that's totally fine too. And that's how my family all is as well, just because, you know, I'm adopted. So they've just kind of have always been around that. So they kind of know, like, okay, like, this is okay to say, this is not okay to say. And it's just always been about Adrienne and like what she's comfortable with and what she, you know, she wants to come up to you and dance with you. Like at our wedding, she was the life of the party. Okay. She pulled out some moves that I've never seen before. And, you know, it was like,
in her mind, it was probably her wedding, right?
Yeah, exactly. She had a white dress on and everything. So
she had the dress. So,
but yeah, like my best friend Raven was like, you know, Adrienne came up to her and was like, dance with me. And she was like, oh, okay. Like she let her, you know, come to her and do that. But like at our wedding, you know, we've just always made it like whatever Adrienne wants to do. Like we're all totally fine. If she wants to hang out with us, she can hang out with us. If she wants to be shy, because it does happen. There's times that she's shy and wants to hide behind Rachel, and that's 100% fine. I'll just watch her because she's really cute to look at, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine just observing.
And I appreciate you for that. Thank you for making her cute.
And you know, but all of my family and like my friends are the same way. So at our wedding, like my friend Raven was dancing, and Adrienne came up to her and was like, dance with me, and she's like, okay, like, okay, this is great. And she picked her up and they were dancing, and it's always been about Adrienne and like whatever she's comfortable with and whatever she wants to call me and whatever she wants to do. Like it's up to her, because that's what, as for me, if my adoption had been that way, that's what I would want, because you know, it's whatever's comfortable for her. Because it could, I mean, I know when she gets older, it might be like a little bit weird, and people are going to ask her questions and they're not going to understand. And that's where I'm hoping that like our relationship's good enough that I can be like, okay, well, maybe this is how you can handle it. Or this is what you can do.
Well, you get to be the one that answers those questions. And that's really cool. Because I'm sure that even as an adopted kid, there's a part of you that wishes that you could ask those questions. Yeah. To the source.
Yes, 100%.
And not just, you know, get the answer like, well, the file says this or whatever. Not, I mean, and that's a lot of adoptions. That's my adoption situation. Yeah. So that's the way it is, but it's so special and awesome when the kid can just be like, hey, why did you make that decision? And you can say, well, here we go. When she's 30, right?
Yeah. Oh, no. She'll know that Lana, she just won't know where babies come from.
Okay, gotcha.
She knows who her Lana is. She knows who Lana's parents are. But they were also, which is really strange, because they were involved in our lives. So they know the big girls, and they have been, you know, with being friends with me, have been involved in their lives. So, you know, the same thing that the big girls call them, you know, that's what Rennie has called them. Is, you know, oh, you know, Mr. Bishop and Miss Mary, and how they came up with his last name and her first name. Who knows? It's just the way it works.
I love it. So what about you, Rachel? What is something that you wish you had done differently? And I know that you know, you already kind of hinted about it, just that you wish that you had, what did you say earlier about
you know, it's okay to like snap at people. It's okay to bite them. If they ask me a stupid question, I feel like I was so just kind of cocooned that I was very fortunate not to have a lot of things that went bad. I stayed home for 13 weeks. I was very blessed that my husband, you know, afforded me that. I got to spend time with the big girls. I had Rennie. So there weren't a lot of regrets. There wasn't a lot that I would have done differently. I've been very blessed that, God has blessed me with the gift of stupid. So if there was something I should have done different, he hasn't made it evident to me. He's made me stupid so I can enjoy what I have.
I love
and
that.
Sometimes that's a bigger blessing than anything else. Like, just make me stupid enough to enjoy where I'm at.
I don't think I've ever gotten that answer before. I really like it. Okay, so Lana, what is your favorite way that your support system, your tribe, supported you through your pregnancy and your decision, and after? Because
they just act like it's normal. Like, it's not, they're not afraid to ask me questions, which I appreciate. But it's normal for them. And so that being normal for them, they help make it normal for other people.
Yeah.
Like, when people ask them questions, they're like, yeah, this is just how it is. Like, they're just it is what it is, and that's kind of it, And it's, I do have days where I, struggle with stuff with, Adrian's birth father, and, feeling guilty, because it was never 100% he was on board. And sometimes I'm one of those people, I feel guilty where it's not necessary to sometimes. Mm-hmm. And, I can go to them and talk to them about it, and they're very quick to be like, okay, this is how it is. And, they love me and they support me, and that's just how they are. They're great. I love them all so much.
Yeah.
I got really blessed with my crew.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about you, Rachel?
Sorry, what was the question? I was like, she feels blessed.
I was just saying, what was your favorite way that your tribe supported you through your adoption?
Okay, well, Lana gave me a baby, and then she gave me milk, and then she'd come and visit me, and it was a really good excuse to, brush my teeth, because in those first few weeks we cocooned, and it was great, and we stayed at home, and, everybody has come alongside us, and Adrian is Adrian, and she is not adopted. She doesn't have any labels. Mm-hmm. She has a title, and we've been very blessed that that's just the way it is. My husband comes from a big family. I come from a big family. Adrian is one of 3, all of the same age.
Yeah.
And so when you see her with the yearlings, you wouldn't know, that she wasn't in the thick of it. We've been so blessed that, our people have just come alongside to love us and to make Adrian the princess that she deserves to be. Yeah. Whether it's, her parents loving on Adrian, whether it's my parents loving on her, whether it's my husband's parents, when you see all of these people, this kid is racking it up come birthday time. There is not one person that doesn't love her and call 3 times before her birthday, what does she want? Well, nothing. But, our tribe has been great. Our people have been great. Lana's been amazing. And the fact that my family also loves her. Mm-hmm. If you were to look through, and I was looking through the announcement on Facebook today from 4 years ago, and to see the responses from your family and the responses from my family, it's just so everybody loved Adrian. Mm. And with that being their main focus, everything else is details.
Yeah. She sounds like the luckiest child in the entire world.
Well, when you're that cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So, okay, and this is kind of a shift in that question, but what is a way that you felt misunderstood or hurt? And I say by your tribe, but it could be people in general. And I think that both of you are pretty open books. But what is maybe a question or comment that was not welcome that you're uncomfortable with answering or talking about?
I dealt with some kind of nasty people after a little bit rude after everything had happened and I started dating my husband. It was just people that, didn't understand the situation and said really mean things. And I never took it to heart because I'm one of those people that's very much what you're saying about me says a lot more about you than it says about me at all. And before I would have taken everything to heart and really cared. But at this point, after that, I was just kind of you want to say something mean about me? Okay. That's fine. it is what it is, you know, whatever. But I had, you know, people that would say, like, I just gave her away, or like, I was really scared to go out. I mean, it took months for my friend to convince me, like, just come out with me one night. Like, let's just go have fun. And I was so scared to do that because I had people that were like, oh, you just did this so that you could like go out and party still. And I'm like a grandma now. I don't go do any of that stuff. I grew up really fast, but, that sort of thing, I had a lot of people say, or just, you know, just people not understanding and the way they would word things. I never like to say like, gave your baby up for adoption. I just say like, I placed my child with a better family, or her best, you know, gave her the best life that she could have.
Yeah.
I just word it differently than that because it just sounds so harsh when you say it that way. And for me, even talking about myself, I don't say, you know, my parents gave me up for adoption. I'm always like, my parents placed me with a better family. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I dealt with. Just people that don't understand. And that's okay. I learned that it's okay because it's just not talked about. And so people don't understand how to ask questions in a way that's not offensive. And I just kind of have had to learn to like, you know, those people deserve to be loved too. And they probably don't realize what they're saying is offensive, but it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of grace.
Yes. Smiling and nodding a lot of that too.
So jumping to the other side of this, what's something that has made you feel hurt or misunderstood?
Probably just ignorance of the love that's here. You know, people assumed, and people's assumptions was hurtful. You know, oh, could she not take care of her? Oh, is she in a better place? Well, here's the thing. She's not necessarily in a better home. I mean, she's still going to fall and hit her head on the counter. And she's still going to have experiences. So I can't say, oh, she's in a better place. No, she's in my home versus Lana's home. But people's kind of perception of that was really hurtful at times. And then them putting, you know, a lot of pressure on me. Oh, she's in a better place. No, she's not. She's still going to occasionally eat chips for dinner. And, you know, I can't say that that's better because Lana might make her eat veggies other than carrots.
Because I hate carrots. Or like, I got a lot of people that would be like, so how much money did you get? And I'm like, well, first of all, that's not any of your business. Second of all, I'm like, I literally never even like thought about any of that. I'm like, I get my hair done for free for life now. Like, that's kind of a score. But it just, I'm like, why? I don't even ask people like, how much money do you make? Like, so it's like, nonetheless, like, how much did you get? So why
that's
would
like,
you think that's an okay question?
Well, also, it's illegal to buy babies. Let's just go ahead and put that out there.
I did not buy this baby. I did not. No,
that's for sure
free hair because it's a treat.
And you know, I still like. She paid for all of her own prenatal. She paid for everything. I mean, that was it. And then, you know, I didn't pay for a lot. And yeah, I'll pay for your hair for the rest of your life. Like, I got that.
Yeah.
But that's just because I like you.
That.
It's just because I like you, and I would have done that either way.
Yeah.
But, you know, people just don't get it sometimes, and they'll ask dumb questions, and you just want to bite them, and we're not allowed to, so we just educate them instead.
Yes. Well, and real quick, let's talk about this, because I think that this is something that is a common misconception. So I will say it again for the people in the back. Buying babies is straight up illegal. Paying for someone's medical bills for them to go through the process of having your child is very different than that. And that is not buying a baby. I'm just going to say that.
Yes.
For the masses.
And I don't know if you want the details on that, but, you know, even, you know, Adrian, with being a preemie and everything, ended up getting our kids.
Yeah.
And, you know, Lana's medical bills, you know, her parents had great insurance. So I, even on that end, didn't have one of those things where I had to, you know, pay for even that. We were so blessed. When I say that our adoption was a God thing, God stepped in and he shut doors that needed to be shut. You know, as we were looking at other adoptions, he said, just wait. Just be patient. Just sit on your hands and just don't touch anything. And then Adrian came along and it's like, then he says, okay, now here you go. And not only that, but I've got, you know, a social worker. The social worker that we had that was supposed to do our home study wasn't coming in for 8 weeks. We had to get a second one on very last minute. And even our social worker came in and said, you know what was she going to charge you? I'll charge you half that. Wow. You know what? We love these adoption stories. Let me help you. I will come in on Memorial Day weekend and we will start your home study. And we're like, for real? Like God stepped in and said, you know, here is what you need. And these things that you shouldn't be touching, just sit on your hands. Because it's not going to happen. If you touch it, I'm going to slap you. And there were a few times that I had some God slaps where he said, you know, just quit touching it.
Back off.
Back off. No.
I know what I'm doing.
Right. And I'm like, but just listen. Well, I got an idea.
That's so hard to remember. Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like as an adoptive mom especially, we're looking at these situations and we feel like we are holding it together. And God is quick to be like, no. My hands are bigger than yours. You just need to back off.
Yeah.
You're just putting holes in it. Just quit touching it.
Yeah. Gosh, it's such a hard lesson, but we learn it every single day. Okay, so last question here. What is, Lana, we'll start with you. What is your biggest piece of advice or encouragement for birth moms or just moms who don't know what they're going to choose?
That you can do this. Like, it's sometimes it's really gonna suck and you're gonna go through every single emotion ever and it's gonna be a roller coaster, but roller coasters can be really fun and really awesome, and that you just have to trust in God that like he has a plan. And no matter how many times I thought like I'm gonna figure this out on my own, when I finally was like, okay, like I can't do any of this. Like, this is all up to him. It's all in his hands. That was when everything really started to fall into place. And that there are people that out there that will support you. And they're especially, you know, before, during, and after. Mm-hmm. And, you know, those people are going to stick around and they're going to be people that do come into your life in the future from that didn't know you at that time, that are going to love you and accept you, and that it's going to be okay. Like, either way, it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. I think that, and I love that you said before, during, and after, because I think that the after part is where women like you get lost in the mix. And that's something that, you know, Lana and Rachel were our keynote speakers at the Birth Mom Brunch on National Birth Mother's Day. So happy National Birth Mother's Day, Lana.
Thank you.
And happy Mother's Day, Rachel. But I love that, because I think that's part of the stigma that we're trying to change. And I see God all over this, because as kind of our culture evolves even to accept adoption more, you're as much of a part of his adoption as we are. And we need to be stepping it up for the after. Because, again, that's not fair for that to be like, well, you've done your part. You go sit in the corner now. And there's no more of that. Yeah. And I love that. So thank you for mentioning that. So, Rachel, what about you? What is your biggest piece of advice or encouragement for adoptive families? Specifically for adoptive moms who need to step it up in the birth mom love game.
Just know that all the love that you have for this baby, she has for this baby. Mm-hmm. And as much as I'm going to love Adrienne and watch her grow, she's going to love her and wonder how she's growing. And to just know that, you know, none of this would be possible, like not even a little bit, had she not chosen to carry Adrienne and to love her. So, I mean, when you're loving on your birth mom, love her as much as you love your baby. Because that is an extension of your baby. She is an extension, you know, my baby is an extension of my birth mom. And I wouldn't want, you know, anybody to have anything other than love for my baby, and I wouldn't expect anything other than love for her, because I love you and I love Adrienne, and I look at Adrienne and I know that she's a little piece of you, and I don't want to take that away from her. In the same way that I look at her and I associate her with the rest of my children, I also remember that she's not unlike, you know, her birth mom, that she has the same blood. She has the same traits. She has a little bit of you. So I want to love you as much as I love her. So anyway.
Oh, girl. I made it until the very end. I'm blaming you, Rachel.
That's okay. It's what I do.
Seriously, that is some powerful stuff there. So, on that note, we're going to close out. But, where can we find you guys and see, cute pictures of Adrian and Adrian's boyfriend, Nick, and all that?
Yeah, I have pictures of them walking down the aisle. No, you can find me. I'm a Facebook only. It's Rachael Lopez, and it's AEL. Rachel, because my mother thought that'd be cute. So I'm not an Instagram or Twitter kind of person. You can also come see me and get your hair done, and I will tell you my story, and I will keep you, captive for 2 hours and let you know that God he loves into these things. So, find me on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, I'm Facebook too and Instagram. I love Instagram. But yeah, Facebook's just Lana Mitchell, and then Instagram is Lana is bananas, and there's a period in between instead of a space. So yeah, that's my favorite go-to.
I love that. And if you're local, you should go get some frozen yogurt.
Yeah, come see me at Yum Yums.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. This is awesome.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Adoptive Mom Podcast. I know this stuff is hard, and I hope you found encouragement here. Remember, you are enough, and you're doing a great job. God wants to be at the center of this journey, and He is big enough to redeem all of our mistakes. Don't forget to check out show notes and other resources at theadoptivemompodcast.com. Thanks again for listening.